What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Johnny Mac here. Just wanted to give you a heads up that if you are looking for a community that is open to discussion as far as mentorship, conservation, the wild, becoming a better person, and all of that, there is a group for you on Facebook, and it is called Soul Seekers. Soul Seekers, we are all about making ourselves a better person. We're all about making sure hunting lasts for generations to come and encouraging people to get plugged in. Whether you are someone who has something to give or someone who needs to soak it up like a sponge, this is a community for you, and I strongly encourage you that if you're on Facebook to join Soul Seekers, and if you're not on Facebook, hop on there just for that group. It is only going to be as powerful as we all make it. And so just remember that life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you, and that you can't outgive good. You can't outgive good, people. I want you to understand that, and I want you to believe it, because when we believe that and we lead with courage and we lead with intention, lives are changed, lives are transformed, just like on this podcast, transformation through primal adventure. Be blessed. Enjoy this episode. Talk soon. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mac. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by the Crazy Elk Company. Based out of the state of Washington with products made in America, they are providing solutions with gear to problems you didn't even know you had. Their tag wallet is one of those solutions, and I had the pleasure of using it on all of my hunts this last year, and it is now a mainstay in my kill kit. The tag wallet is a water-resistant zippered pouch that comes with its own reusable zip ties to safely and securely store your notch tag for quick and easy access. For more information, go to crazyelkcompany.com and use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. Be blessed, everyone, and as always, stay soulful. All right, all you listeners out there, if you are interested in subscribing to Bear Hunting Magazine, our guest, Kolby Morehead from Bear Hunting Magazine, is offering a discount code of $5 off a one-year subscription for Bear Hunting Mag. And that is if you use the code SOULFUL, and that's all capital letters, SOULFUL. And use that online to get $5 off a one-year subscription of Bear Hunting Magazine. I don't get any kickbacks from this. This is just him providing this as an opportunity for him being on the podcast and as a thank you. So if you are not a subscriber to Bear Hunting Magazine, go do that and get $5 off using the code SOULFUL. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. It was quite an amazing conversation, and I gathered and learned quite a bit from Kolby. Enjoy the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mac, and today I got just a lovely episode with an amazing human being. And it seems like if you listen to this podcast episode after episode, I'm always like, oh, I got this wonderful person coming on. And the thing is it's true, I don't like to surround myself with people that I don't truly support. And here it is. It's just another amazing connection that's happened in this world. Because you start putting yourself out there, you try new things, you never know what's going to come. And you always hear me talk about you can't outgive good. And Kolby Morehead is one of those people that is just always putting good out into the world. And he is the man behind Bear Hunting Magazine. We like to joke around and call him the Bear Tech, but at the end of the day, he's really the cover model for one of the earlier editions of Bear Hunting Magazine. But Kolby, man, thanks for coming on the show, bro.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me or inviting me.
Oh, dude, always a good time here at the Soulful Hunter. So what's happening in your neck of the woods right now? I mean, we're recording. It's August or September 23rd. bear season here in the state of Washington's been open for 2 months almost already. What are you planning? What do you got coming up here?
Man, my bear season got overshadowed. I got married this month, and so I wasn't really planning many bear hunts or any. It's going to be one of those things too, where I go out on public land and just kind of like, mosey through and scout hunt.
Right. Okay, so for all the listeners who don't know who Kolby is, give a little background on yourself, what you do, where you're from. Obviously, I know you're from the state of Arkansas, or at least that's where you're currently holding your hat. However, has it always been Arkansas? Go ahead and give all the listeners a little background on yourself.
I grew up in East Texas. I didn't move to Arkansas until about 2.5 years ago to come up here and work with Clay at the magazine. I've lived an interesting life. So the hospital bills were paid for with furs and
you say
there
it
might
so
have been
like
some catfish.
you say it so nonchalant, man. Like you were raised by a father who spent his time out in the woods, right? More or less.
Yeah. Most people called him the Daniel Boone of East Texas as like close friends. But he was a commercial fisherman whenever I was born, and ended up selling. I mean, he sold furs and stuff like that. So I grew up fishing and coon hunting and hog hunting and deer hunting and running hounds and trapping hogs, and I've lived an interesting life. It was not something that's been afforded to a lot of people or the masses.
So are you close with your father to this day? Do you have a relationship with him? So
yeah, we actually last year we both got muzzleloader bucks sitting together.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Now, so give it a little more context to it. So your father, because that's quite a statement that you just said. He was called the Daniel Boone of East Texas, like
by our friends.
Yeah. So you grew up with this outdoor lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Hunting, trapping, fishing. This is all you knew. Do you have any siblings? Are you the oldest of certain kids?
I've got a younger sister. She doesn't really. I mean, she's hunted some. She doesn't really have a pursuit inside of it. But yeah, it's just us two: mom, dad, me, and my little sister.
So did your dad always treat you as like his legacy to hunting and trapping and being like, all right, listen, Kolby, sit here. I want you to learn and pick up everything that I'm about to tell you and teach you. And this is how we're going to do it. Is that like what your youth was like, or how did it roll?
No. He expected me to be observant and pick it up by just following him around, which happened a lot. I became really observant and picked up on different things. But he wasn't really verbal and like, oh, this is what this is what that is. It's funny. He's just like, you should know it. You grew up with me. And then, my friends would come over and he was Mr. Encyclopedia. And so it's like somehow I knew most of the things that he was saying just because of living the life. But, it's just kind of one of those things that when we were out in the woods, we were quiet,
Right.
And just walking around. So yeah, that's how it was.
So here I am out in the state of Washington. You're coming from East Texas. You live in Arkansas the last couple of years. We're in the Western hunter, this idea of like mule deer and bugling elk and public lands and all that stuff. And yet Arkansas has a lot to offer that I feel like is like, it's the secret of the woods. And here it is that Bear Hunting Magazine has really been putting Arkansas on the map for a lot of things. Do you find your passion for the outdoors, is it something that carried with you no matter where you went, or now that you're in Arkansas, it's expanding even more, or it's shifting and transforming because it's more of a public land style hunt rather than Texas being more private and all that? Or what's this journey been like?
Man, it's been interesting. Whenever growing up in Texas, everything was private, for the most part. And my dad is Mr. Permission. I don't know how he gets all the places that he gets to hunt, but he's just very social, and he's never met a stranger. And so he I remember multiple times just sitting in the truck when he goes and knocks on the door. And that's just the kind of person he is. And so it made it to where I was afforded the opportunity to have a lot of different places to hunt, and um, be able to just do a lot of things, just shadowing him and following along. I mean, really, my dad treated me like a best friend, like I was the person he wanted there with him, going and doing everything. He had other friends, but it was like the fun hunts are the ones that he really liked, was whenever I was tagging along. And I most of my good stories growing up involve tagging along with him, especially like something about waterfowl hunting and getting wet that always makes for a good story. But uh, no, it's just one of those things to where he just wanted me around, and I really got an opportunity to not get so stuck on one type of hunt. My dad loved to hunt all sorts of things, and he would even go from time to time up on an elk hunt or a mule deer hunt out in the west. Um, my personal, I mean, I like to hunt just about anything. I mean, we even frog gigged, went frog gigging growing up.
Did you ever noodle for
Trot line,
catfish?
throw line, like catfish. No, we pulled some big ones out, but it was off of trot lines and throw lines and stump hooks. Just that type of thing. Before netting became illegal inside of the state of Texas, my dad would catch those big fish in barrel nets and stuff.
Hmm.
But it got out. It got legislation made it to where you couldn't do that. Whenever I was just coming into the point of being, I would have started participating in it. So
Right.
I have some memories of it, just barely, and I think most of those memories come from old photos of like fish that there's one of my cousin holding a fish up to his chest, and the fin is on the ground, the tail, and
Wow.
kind of cocked to the side. Just my dad just is a different kind of person. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Uh, so it, yeah, so it
Oh
was it
man.
was fun,
So,
and coming to Arkansas and being this distant from him. Uh, it's really one of those things where I feel like in a way I'm starting over. Like I have this foundation of what to look for, and things that are nuanced that I wouldn't even be able to articulate. And I think that's the hard thing for me is growing up and just like learning by following and picking up on things. Sometimes it's hard to articulate the things that I'm like, oh, this would be a good spot. Why? Man, I don't know if I can tell you. you
hmm.
know,
Right.
it's just one of those things. It's like I don't know how to articulate everything, but it's just like, man, I've just got a feeling this is the spot.
Right.
And yeah, but I love hunting out west too. It's different hunting in the eastern deciduous forest, kind of like thicker forested area versus a place to where you can really see out, spot and stalk hunting. Um, so it's kind of like two different animals. I'm definitely more comfortable in down here in this type of terrain. It just kind of feels like home.
I would also, I would imagine from my perspective, because I don't have any personal experience, but you go from like Texas hunting is more like box blinds, right? You just sitting, waiting, feeders, all that, and then
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, you could still hunt or slip hunt. Yeah.
and then you go to your Arkansas, and you're starting to hunt these public land places and these different locations. Do you feel like you're
Yeah.
having to recreate yourself as a hunter and learn a different set of skills, or do you feel like it's all transferable?
Man, I think that there's instincts there that'll always be there, and just things that have been learned. The difference is up here I'm in mountains, and so the terrain is different. But a deer's still gonna make a rub, still gonna make a scrape, still gonna go for hard mass at times, and then browse at other times. And and bears is a really we didn't have them in Texas.
Right.
Like me bear hunting was was something that I never even like considered, because I had no idea. Really, I'd always heard that they didn't taste good, and I was raised like you don't kill something that you don't eat,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's a coyote or a, something like that, or a crow. Uh, but so it was kind of a bizarre experience. And then, once I met Clay and started following the magazine, I started uh, learning more about bears, and man, it changed my life. you
Okay,
know,
dude, let's unpack that. So I got to know more, because my very first kill, my very first animal that I chose to pursue when it came to hunting was black
yeah,
bears. Well, that was the animal
yeah,
that when I got into hunting, it was, I was a high school football coach. Football started mid-August.
hmm
Between breaking film down and Saturday meetings and all these different things, I didn't have the ability to just like slip out and go dedicate myself to a hunt, especially being newer, where it's like I didn't have stuff dialed into knowing where I could go for a half a day or even a full day. And so here I
yeah,
was carrying a rifle and a backpack and hunting these places that I used to backpack just for fun. And all of a sudden I was like,
yeah,
oh, dude, I can hunt bear at the same time. So for me, I also had to face my fears, because growing up, I was a scared little boy. And this idea of like, a bear's going to come get me in the woods, and all these different fears and feelings and sensations that I had well up inside me in my soul. And well, and as you can
hmm
tell, that's how the soulful hunter came about, is because I had to face these
yeah.
fears. I had to challenge my manhood. I had to, sharpen my senses. So talk to me, unpack this. Bears changed your life. Like, that's a dramatic statement, especially because a lot of people find bears to be an animal they do not want to hunt, nor will they. Like, they
Yeah,
put their foot down. They're like, nope,
yeah,
I don't hunt bears.
yeah. For me, it's not necessarily the bear hunting changed my life, but bear hunting and the place that I found myself in changed my trajectory of life.
Mm.
So I've known Clay for a long time, and it came to one of these things to where, as he acquired the magazine, and I subscribed just to support him. Like I didn't even read them for a while, you know. Uh, uh, but I would keep, renewing, just to, I just wanted to support a friend. And man, he began to put stuff on YouTube, and I began to see all of the uh, all of the things behind bear hunting. It made it to where it's like, man, this is something that I could actually do. And for me, it was formative, because this is the first thing that I've hunted that wasn't led by my dad, and so this was almost like a stepping out into manhood, in a way, to where I was going to go after something, and it was going to be my pursuit. It was going to be the way that I wanted to do it. And I was going to go with a friend. And, there's something, it was almost like, early 30s, but it was one of those things that was very much like a stepping outside of the covering of my father's house, and
Yes.
for that, it brings a sense of maturity, and like of stepping out from underneath the covering of the strength that you've had in the past. It's
Hmm.
like, hey, I'm gonna step out and build some of my own strength and my own patterns, and to be able to kill some bears, and my dad still hasn't killed one. It's kind of a big deal. you know
Yeah.
uh because it's always been like, oh, I've been in his, I don't want to say shadow, but um it's one of those things to where hunting with him and his ability to even skin anything or break anything down. He's just so fast, like he could do two and still help me with the one that I've been working on.
Uh-huh.
Um it just made it to where I had to step out of my own, the thing that's always covered me, and just go and be willing to fail. you know
You
uh
you got out of the safety net. The
yeah,
the I'm safe and content in this area. I know what I'm doing, and so therefore it's comfortable. And you
Yeah.
did exactly what I did. See, this is why hunting has been so transformative for me. And a lot of people, not everyone understands why hunting is like so powerful. For me personally, it was the first thing that I chose and taught myself for myself. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it wasn't, oh, I do it because my dad does it, or I did it because family
Mm-hmm.
friends did it and they, I always saw it. Like this was something that was completely foreign to me. And I was like, no, I want to do this. I want to learn how to
Yeah.
provide for myself. And so I know when you're saying that, like, it challenged your manhood. Like there's a lot to be
Yeah.
said. And I imagine for people who have very strong family structures, this idea of like, well, my dad did it this way, so I have to do it this way. And then my children are going to do it that way because their granddaddy taught them that, like
Mm-hmm.
there's so much put
Yeah.
into this idea of legacy and handing it down. And yet the beauty of that is that knowledge gets passed. The sad thing is that
Mm-hmm.
people lose their own identity, or they lose their own style or flair, or
Yeah.
all of that, because
Yeah.
they want to do things for others rather than doing them for themselves, and turning it back
Yeah.
in and be like, what do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a part of like how it was for you? Did you kind of almost
Yeah.
feel like you're going sideways on your dad because all of a sudden?
No, no. I mean, it's almost like I appreciate everything that you do, and I'm gonna go forge my own way and just step out. I think about, and this might be totally inaccurate, but from what everything that I've seen, a lot of native cultures had some rite of passage for boy to manhood, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like inside of the culture that we find ourselves in, it's one of those of more of like, hey man, go run from the boogeyman if he comes. And then it's like other cultures would be like, no, when that boogeyman comes, you come whoop him. Just go
Yes.
get him, kick his
Yes.
butt. And I think that just something rises up inside of you. It's like, this is the right thing. And I don't even know that I thought of it in terms of stepping away from my dad at all. Like it was something that he got to be a part of, but wasn't with me. And, I got to take him along on the journey. And then, man, when I was on, like, I ended up on the cover of Bear Hunting Magazine and wrote an article in there. And I mean, just he was as proud as can be, and now he wants to go bear hunting. and
Yeah.
and so it was a really good experience, but it was one of those things to where I I knew that I wanted to go on a hunt with Clay, and I was supposed to go on the hunt the year prior, but I needed to get some gear in order before I went. Because we went up to far up in Canada, and I needed. It's one of those things where growing up, there wasn't an emphasis on camo. There wasn't an emphasis on any of that stuff. Like I had one pair of coveralls that I hunted in when it got cold, and
Yeah.
then I might wear some of my dad's stuff periodically. There's pictures of me in jeans and a t-shirt, with the deer whenever I was a teenager.
Uh-huh.
We wore camo sometimes, but it just wasn't an emphasis. Um, I love the camo I've got now, but it's because it's like athlete. I mean, it's like that merino wool, and it just makes you so much more comfortable.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, it was just a lifestyle. We like nice things, but it's like this is just life.
Yeah.
I mean, I've shot deer out the back door. you know.
Right. Okay. So one of the questions I would imagine a lot of listeners are asking is, how do you go from being a boy from East Texas and having your hospital bills paid for from your dad with furs and catfish and all this stuff to getting to be in a community with Clay Newcomb, who has
Yeah.
really come to prominence within the hunting world within the last couple of years? It feels like his name has truly exploded. And
Yeah.
it's not about like this, oh man, it's Clay Newcomb, but there's a lot to be said about no risk, no reward, right? Putting yourself out there. So you'd
Mhm.
already said you wrote an article, you ended up
Yeah.
making the magazine cover, all these things. How did you get connected with Clay? And then he took you on your first bear hunt, and then here you
Yeah.
are working for Bear Hunting Magazine. Like, what is this
Yeah.
journey to connect the dots for
Yeah.
us
That
all?
journey. I met Clay through a church organization that I joined whenever I was in college, and would meet him at conferences and stuff, and got to know him. And when you kind of always find the hunters, in the
Right,
groups,
right.
and this was before the magazine was ever a thing, um, and so we would just chat whenever we would be at the same conference, and then that relationship just started to grow, and eventually, like, I just told him, I was like, I want to go on a bear hunt, and so he invited me on one, and man, I felt it was one of those moments. Oh, and just for context, at this point, I was in the IT industry in Dallas, so I mean, I was not hurting for cash. Um, and so I told him I could pay my own way and everything. And so I was at a point to where I needed to upgrade my gear. Like in East Texas, I had bow hunted some,
Hmm.
but it's so hot and the mosquitoes were so bad. And this is pre-thermocell. We
Hmm.
didn't mess with it. It's like, man, when it cools off, we'll hunt. It's not time. We know our seasons. It's hot or cold. We'll wait for the like switch to where it's cold in the morning and then dead heat in the middle of the day. We'll hunt the morning and the evening. you
Right.
know, uh, and I'd always just, I mean, my dad had bought bows from pawn shops, and I'd shot his hand-me-downs, and stuff. And I was like, this time I'm stepping out on my own. I want to have my own gear. I want to know how to do everything myself. My dad is so good at doing all of the things that I'd helped, but I'd never taken initiative. And I felt before I went on this hunt, I needed to take initiative. And the year prior to that, I decided that I wanted to fully break down all the animals myself, and just build more proficiency at that. Cause I realized if I did it and just let my dad do it, or just help him do it, then I wasn't building any maturity or any like skill inside of me.
Hmm.
And so I invested in, a grinder and all this other stuff, uh, and started processing the meat myself, which wasn't a new thing to me. It was a new thing for me to take responsibility and do it myself. I remember one time I had we had killed 6 hogs, and I took care of all 6 hogs. It was a labor of I don't know that I want to do it again.
It's a lot
Uh,
of work.
yeah. But I did, and I was like, repetition and just doing one after the other. It's like that last one was so much faster, and I was so much better at it than the first one.
Hmm.
And so that was the first year. The next year was when Clay talked to me about going on a hunt, and I decided that I wanted to buy a bow and get some good camo and stuff before I went. And so I did that, and then the next year I ended up going on a hunt with him. And it's just one of those things of like, a lot of times we want the change to be immediate, and uh, we take away the power of a slow, gradual increase.
Mm.
There's a book called Atomic Habits that's so good. I think the guy's name is James Clear. But he talks about just increasing your output by 1% a day, just making your day just be 1% better the next day. And I think that incremental change is something that, it's like if people want to lose weight, they just want to like starve themselves or go on some crazy diet instead of just doing like 1%. And, just eat a little bit better each day.
Yep.
And I think that that's the type of change that really takes and changes like who you are and your patterns. Um, and so if it hadn't been for that slow, gradual process and that slow, gradual journey of taking initiative um, myself
Hmm.
and going out on my own, then it wouldn't have as been as sweet, you know,
Hmm.
that trip. And there wouldn't have been something that was built inside of me to where I wasn't like shaking or I wasn't like nervous about stuff,
Yes.
to where I could just dive in.
Y-
And go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's man, I tell you, you're speaking my language, and you know, someone who, my big stick is mentorship is conservation, right? Is this idea of that you want to give back to other people, you want to invest into the thing that you love, and the way I invest into it is through the time in which I spend in order to get people up and going, whether it's a phone call, meeting in person, or whatever it is. It's like
Hmm.
the thing is that when people want to hunt and want to learn how to hunt, they're like, I want to learn how to kill. And they
Hmm.
don't realize like hunting is this process. And, you talk about these small progressions and 1% a day with the atomic habits. And I love that concept because people are always like, well, I last year I was supposed to run my very first ultra marathon, 100 miles. Like, man, 100 miles,
Hmm.
that's a long way. How do you do that? And it's like one step at a time. Like that
Yeah.
sounds like too simple. No, there's got to be something more to
Hmm.
that. Like, is it head game? Is it physical toughness, mental toughness? Like no, you just put one foot in front of the other. Like same concept. Like how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a
Hmm.
time. You know,
Start at the trunk.
yeah, eventually it's going
Yeah.
to be completed. It's just a matter of like sticking it through. And we live in this world of instant gratification. You got to have it now,
Hmm.
fast food. You want results, bam, bam, bam. My internet's not fast enough. I can't get to that web page as quick enough. Like
Yeah.
I need instant downloads. It's a sad life, and that's what I think is so transformative through hunting is that it causes you to actually put the brakes on and enjoy the process. And if you don't enjoy the process, you're not
Hmm.
going to be doing it very long. Like I can tell you that
Yeah.
from experience. But the thing is like enjoy your life. Jana Waller, she bless her heart, she always says it's about living, right? It's about living.
Yeah.
Well, it is about living, and living each moment is an opportunity to get better and to grow and to learn. And
Hmm.
one of the things that my father always passed down to me is he always said, either you're getting better or you're getting worse. There is no in between,
Hmm.
because the minute
Yeah.
that you are not advancing and making progress is the minute that everyone else has an opportunity to make progress, and therefore they're passing you up, and therefore you are falling
Yeah.
behind and you're getting worse because of that. And it's not always it's not a competition between other people, but it is an opportunity for you to pause and just be present in the moment. And I think that is
Yeah.
something that is lost in society these days.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a few things. You can't export something that's not first built inside of you. And so like as far as like mentoring and stuff, mentoring isn't always about taking people on hunts and all that stuff. A lot of the greatest tool that you have is your own life, and so you have to intentionally build it in a way to where you can be a resource for others. Because if you don't build something with intentionality, something's still going to get built inside your life, and you're just going to be unaware of it, until all of a sudden it just blows up, and it's like, how am I where I am? And I think that's one of the things that's great about hunting is it produces, at least the hunting that I've done growing up. Um, I Some of my best moments are in a tree stand, or just up in a tree, leaves blowing, critters down on the ground, or just like walking slowly through the woods. But it gives you time to be introspective and really think, and you get more in touch with, I don't know, you just find your solace in your stillness. And there's a lot of beautiful things that happen whenever you find your peace, and find a place to where you can hear this. This world is so busy with everything that it just makes it so hard to see what's going on inside of you, and it's like, you see these movies and stuff to where people get home from a hard day and they put on some classical music and just close their eyes or turn the lights out or something. That would be like the closest thing that I could say that meets that. But just finding a place of stillness is so important. And you got to slow down the busyness and the pace of your life to really understand what's going on. Because if you're running a million miles an hour, something's going to get dropped,
Mm-hmm.
and or at some point you'll see the gap in your life, and then it's like you have to go way back to, that thing is like cemented in at that point.
Right.
And you don't take the time to build relationships with other people, like good relationships where people can speak into your life. And because mentorship is not just one person mentoring another, it's like if everyone gets something out of relationships. And so I think that's another thing that's key, is like not always just looking from the standpoint of, whenever I'm talking to someone, I'm not just trying to give, I'm also seeing what they have that adds to my life. And that's really what a really well functioning relationship looks like. Even if you take a kid hunting, there's something that you might be able to get from them. Maybe they help you laugh a little more or something,
Right.
or you find this thing inside of you to where you find this thing inside of you that you didn't know was there, just by being there and being proximate and given the time. And
100%.
and yeah, and you can mentor, like, just by being a positive. I mean, we talk about guarding the gate inside the magazine, of just like, bear hunting is one of those things that is under attack regularly. It's the first thing. I mean, if you look in the news, the two topics that always there of like somebody's trying to stop this hunting season, it's either bears or trapping.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And and so when we talk about guarding the gate, it's really just living a way that represents bear hunters in a positive light, and knowing why you do what you do. Um, that's the best thing. You don't want to get into arguments with people. People can. It takes two people to argue. you know, you can. You don't want to. And it's just be a good representation. And I think that's good for the whole hunting. Anyone that's an outdoorsman, you don't even have to be a hunter, just like anyone that enjoys the outdoors. Just, have a supportive heart for everybody. If you don't care about other people, there's something wrong. you know.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah.
but
Love, man. Love one another, right? God
yeah.
God called us to love God and love man, and uh I think it's often forgot. You're speaking some wisdom here, Colby. You're dropping some truth bombs on all these listeners, and I really appreciate it, because you're up that alley of the soulful hunter, brother. You're speaking my language, and I really appreciate it. One of the things I wanted to ask you, which you brought up and really speaks to me, is this idea of introspection and peace within the stillness of hunting. Like you find
Yeah.
your connection with maybe your creator, your God, your nature, his
Hmm.
creation, all this stuff. But here you are working at a magazine that promotes hunting. And in order to have a magazine that promotes hunting, you also have to have content that promotes the magazine, which
Yeah.
promotes hunting. And so, do you ever find yourself in a struggle or a balance between getting content
Hmm.
that you're sharing with the world versus doing it for you? Because I'm starting to run into that on my own journey of, I started a
Yeah.
show, and here I am, like, my wife comes back, she's like, do you need a hunt that's for yourself, where you're not bringing a camera along, where you're not doing anything else, because
Yeah.
get back to the basics of it. Do you find that?
Yeah. We haven't been at a point to where we've decided that we were going to film my hunts much. Taking still images for the magazine for content is pretty easy, and I like to take photos. So, I come back with a lot more than I need.
Uh-huh.
I can say, like, hunting with Clay and stuff and filming for him, it seems to be one of those things to where you just have to go in willing to not get the quarry that you're after. You have to be willing to, it's a sacrifice, and you just have to decide what's important to you. If you have to see the whole journey for what it is and look for the beauty inside of the process. Um, because if it's just about the kill, then, you've lost something. At the same time, you do need content. It's a hard thing to it's a hard thing to walk out. And it also depends on who's the driver or who's pushing such things. It could be like, if you have a network that says I want like so many episodes, well, it's like you're responsible for that. If it's a personal drive, then there's more flexibility inside of it. Um, it's always one of those things that you have to figure out for yourself. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. And I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things everybody's got to figure out what's correct and where they just feel what they feel peace and joy about. Because if it's something that's running you down, then it's like you have to stop and just take a look internally and figure out where the cog is. Um, it's a hard thing to walk out. And the biggest thing that I've seen walked out and that keeps everything healthy is to make sure that the home life is correct and the family's covered. Because if that's not the most important thing, then everything gets out of order.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're pushing to the point to where you don't know what's going on inside your family's life, and they don't feel your presence even when you're not there, if they don't feel covered, or feel like you're reachable, they at least should have your in reach number.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's the way to live, is like live from the core relationships or the core structures of your life and then go outward. Keeps everything in alignment and keeps the importance where it's supposed to be, and then everything else will fall into place and you can decide what direction you want to go and just be okay with making more content or not, just depend on your circumstances of like, is this required or not?
Do you think social
and to
media?
everything, there's a season.
Oh yeah, that is true. Do you think social media's kind of ruined hunting for a lot of people?
Man, it's I don't think it's ruined hunting. I think that it's painted different characteristics of hunting, because just a grip and grin, um, something that doesn't give context can be detrimental.
Can I
And
just jump in there because I
yeah,
am teaching social studies this year, U.S. history,
yeah,
and I'm telling these kids, I've always been a phys ed and health teacher, and this year I'm teaching
mhm,
social studies, and I'm telling these kids content without context is dangerous. It
yeah,
is because all of a sudden it leaves room for imagination, and then people create stories in their heads about what they're seeing that cannot even be remotely to the truth, and yet they believe it. The
mhm,
perception is reality mentality.
yeah.
So speak to that. I just wanted to share that because you're speaking my language, Kolby.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's one of the things is coming into the magazine and just, if you don't create a context for your story or I'm so bad, and I've always been bad about telling a story, and people are kind of lost because I don't take the time to set it up or give the full story. And I think that that's something that I've come more into, um, especially inside of a magazine, to where you're becoming a storyteller, or you're on a podcast, and or just friendships, learning how to give context to where people can track with you and to be able to accurately share a journey. And the thing I've learned is you have to have patience inside of that. You
Mm-hmm.
have to, I feel like a lot of times the care that we have, like if you truly care for someone, it's like you give more details, you give more of a story, you fill in gaps. And if you care for your audience, you try to fill in those gaps and give them a full complete thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like telling a joke without the punchline, or telling the punchline without the joke.
Right.
you know uh, they both need to go together, and if you separate them out, there's no power inside of it. Or or it could be a negative thing. you know
Right.
um, I mean, if you watch a highlight reel of somebody that made some awesome play or a couple awesome plays, and you didn't show like where they fumbled 5 times, you can paint a picture however you want to, by whatever strokes you decide to put on the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
And so to make sure that it's layered correctly and the full picture is there, You have to learn like what context you need to give. And then sometimes it's like, especially with social media, don't give too much information. Everybody comes from a culture, and different cultures normalize things in different ways. And so if someone that comes from a hound background does something on social media and just puts it up, all the hound guys would just be like, man, that is awesome, man. I can't believe you got that on video. But other people would see it and they have no context for what that lifestyle is like.
Mhm.
And so they don't know how to process the thought of, they don't know all the things that went into it. And it's a really dangerous thing not to put everything inside of the narrative. It's one of those things that if you just put raw stuff out there, it's not covering everyone. It's dangerous to not have context.
Where'd you learn this? Where did you learn to come
Man,
up
just
with?
life.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
you're a fascinating human, man. The way you're sharing these. I hate to interject or jump in at different points because I'm like, what else are you gonna say? You're really. I didn't know exactly in getting into this conversation. Different topics or different guests go certain directions. You
Yeah.
know what you're going to talk about. Like the last episode that I had was about suppressors. So we know we're going to be covering that topic. When I invited you
Yeah.
on here as a guest, I didn't know exactly which direction we were going to go, but dude,
Yeah.
Kolby, you're deep, brother. You got some wisdom to you.
Yeah. I'm goofy too. It just hasn't come out yet.
Is this all experience? Is it it because you've lived it, or is it what you've been taught, passed down? Like where are you gaining all this
Yeah.
different wisdom and knowledge from?
Man, I think one of the best things I ever did was get into a community of just like really solid guys that, I can submit to and trust. Just submit to in the thing of like take in what wisdom that they have to give. Like even guys my own age, like just having a good group of friends that are all determined to mature as just men. You know, uh, if whatever your focus is on is like wherever your sight line is where you're going to go. Like if you look off into the ditch long enough when you're driving along the road, that's where your car's going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
Like and so if you want to build a life that makes it a safe place for others, for your family. I mean, like I just got married, and a lot of the way that I've built my life has been so that when she comes in, like she has a safe place or environment to live, and to where she feels covered. And if that's something that if I didn't intentionally build it and I brought a lot of immaturity into it, then there would be problems already. you know
Mm-hmm.
uh and I think just we need to I just put a lot of importance on being just a good human being, and just I don't want to be an old man and be careless and not have anything to pass on, you know um and I don't want to just go through life complacent and just okay, um with whatever gets built inside of my life. And ultimately, every time that you focus on building that inner man, or you just feel better, you just have some momentum that you don't have otherwise. And it's not just like every day I get up and I like think about these things, but I do um consider others first, and I want to be a positive inside of everything. um and at the same time, it's like it's also just being a balanced human, like being willing to confront people when they need to be confronted, but doing it in a way to where it's not pressing them down. I think one of the scenes from The Man from Snowy River just popped into my head, and it's uh, the dad just bought this really expensive colt, and it was really spirited, and he had a daughter that was very spirited too, and he struck his daughter at one point, and there's like her caretaker, her aunt, comes over and says, you would have never broken that horse's spirit the same way you just broke your daughter's spirit. And that's just something you don't want to be somebody that comes in and cuts others down and breaks spirit, but you want to have the ability to build with them and share. You have to be able to confront out of a thing of like, yeah, I'm not coming in to put you down, but I'm coming in to like help you be better, um, and just coming in. It's like I want to see you succeed, and if you come in with that heart with anybody that you deal with, uh, I mean, just makes your whole environment better. People trust you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I don't know. It's just things like that. If you really take a look, even in movies and stuff, there's things that you can take from it. Relationships, uh, and everything. It's just a good way to live.
Dude, the wisdom bombs from Kolby, you're the bear tech. I mean, come on, brother. You're holding it down. I always talk about inward reflection leads to outward correction. And
Hmm.
if more people in this world would take time to look inward and identify what they want in this life, that this world would be a better place. Because
Hmm.
like you said, you're staring in the ditch while you're driving your car, you're going to end up there. If you don't keep your eyes on
Hmm.
the cliche, sports terminology, keep your eyes on the prize, right? But really, it's like,
Hmm.
if in hunting, if you're not looking at the animal that you're shooting and you're looking somewhere else when you squeeze the trigger, your chances of shooting that animal and actually killing it aren't very high. This is
Yeah.
literally a metaphor for life, where
Yeah.
you have to identify what you want in this life and then go out and get it. And keeping your eyes on it is
Yeah.
is gonna get you there. So does this bring up some emotions in
Yeah.
you?
And
Like,
how
do you feel
and
like a stir in your soul when you're
man,
talking about this?
man, it feels normal. uh, no, but I will say, like, that whole eyes on the prize thing, you have to also realize that the journey is just as important as the outcome. Like if you like push your body to the end and then you shot something and you couldn't get it out because your body so broke down. It's like, you know, make sure that you don't lose that the goal or the thing that you're after doesn't outweigh the journey that you're on and the wisdom or like the awareness that's required to get there.
Hmm.
um yeah.
I love it.
Everything's balance, yeah, everything's balance.
So here you are talking about all this, just real gold, just gems, man. Really, really digging it. Um, you went on this bear hunt
I appreciate it.
in Canada with Clay. He took you on. Did you kill a
Yeah,
bear? And then how did you
I
end up
did.
going on a hunt to then working at Bear Hunting Magazine?
Yeah, man, I got up there and we hunted the first day for me, and Clay filmed it, and I end up getting the thing that was so cool about bears that I've never seen with any other animal is they have so much character. And I'm really happy that the first hunt that I ever did was a baited hunt, because it's just so much more personal, and you get to watch them and their mannerisms. And every bear that came in had a different character to it, like it had a different personality. And I would have never believed someone if I hadn't have seen it myself. um, and that was the biggest capture for me. I think coming out of it was just like how cool critters they are. Like a white-tailed deer, there's not much difference between them. You have one that's more spooky than the other, like but these bears actually had character.
Mm.
But I did that, and then I filmed for Clay the rest of the week. And it just something about it felt right. It felt like something that I needed to be connected to Clay, like closer. Um, and the the church up here in Northwest Arkansas that I'm in now, like I had friends up here that are like family. like chosen family.
Mhm.
And I had a support structure to go to. And so I was like, you know what? All this, everything that I have in Dallas, like it's great. And I have a lot of friends here, but I knew that it was time to make a change and kind of take a step of faith. You know, sold the house, quit the job, and obviously when moving into the outdoor industry, I'm not making what I made, in the IT industry.
Mhm.
Um, but it's just one of those things. It's like I had peace and joy about it, even though it didn't make sense in everyone else's minds. And like with where everything's headed the last 2.5 years, like everyone sees the beauty inside the decision that I made. That initially they were like, "You're doing what?" you know, uh, and so yeah, man, it was a big process, and it took some time. Clay really needed help. He was kind of a one man show. He had to do everything. He was just being stretched thin, and so I really came in to help build and grow the business. And man, it was working. And then Meat Eater came in, and it helped more. And so I mean, Meat Eater doesn't own Bear Hunting Magazine, but they're kind of like a cousin over here on the side. they're not pouring they're not pouring into it or anything, but just knowing those guys and being proximate, has helped for sure.
Yeah.
Just for exposure. And you know, I mean, the things that I'm saying are things, a lot of it stuff that has come up in conversations between me and Clay, and just other guys that we know. Just we just surround ourselves with just good people,
Mhm.
and that is that's an important thing. You're going to look like you're the people you surround yourself with, and you have to decide what's important to you, and your friends and the people that surround you should have aspects of what's important to you and what you value. So, because it'll seep into your life.
Mhm. 100%. What's the future for you? What does the future hold
Man.
for you, Colby? And are you gonna continue rocking and rolling with Bear Hunting Mag and
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah. Right now, my sight line is more on being a good husband. Just couple weeks married. Um, she's actually going to go hunting with me this year, and so my focus isn't as much on bear hunting right now as much as really like letting her find out how involved she wants to be inside of hunting, and uh, just giving her a good experience, just
mhm.
spending time out there. Whether I am successful inside of harvesting anything this year, I don't know. It's just not one of those things that's important inside of me right now. I want to get out there and explore, and I really want to take other people along. I have several guys that want to go deer hunting this year, and so I'm going to go out and start scouting some public land and find spots to where I could take them, and just kind of help them along without being too much of a crutch.
Mhm.
So,
Man,
yeah.
you are an absolute stud, Colby. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on this
Yeah.
episode and just dropping some knowledge bombs on everybody. And you know what
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway is on this episode, at least for me personally, is that you know so often we're caught up in this competition of comparing ourselves to the outside world. And often we lose
Hmm.
sight of the things that we want in our life. And I love how when I presented you with the question of, what does the future look like? You're like, well, first off, I want to make sure I take care of my marriage. And that
Yeah.
is not an answer that a majority of people in this world would be able to say. And so, first off,
Yeah.
I just want to commend you on that as a human being.
Oh, thanks, man.
That is a huge step, and you build your foundation upon a rock, or you can build it upon sand. And if your foundation is taken care of,
Hmm.
everything else stands a lot stronger and lasts a lot longer. So, I'm really proud of you on that, brother, and
Yeah.
I just wanted to let you know that as well.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, we got to get together in person and chase some bears. I don't know how easy it is to get an over the counter tag and come down to Arkansas and hunt some bears with you.
Man,
But
it's $350.
and that's it. And we can go hunt those acorns and get after it.
Man, you buy if you buy a license in most of these southern states, you get all your tags. Like, so on that one tag or that one license for $350, you could get I think you could kill up to 5 deer, $2 and 3 does, a bear and turkey. Anyways,
you said $5.
No. I think it's 5 deer. I think it's $2 and 3 does, and it might have to be across multiple counties, but I know you can, or 5 deer.
Dude, we get 1 deer a year. That's why in the state of Washington you can shoot 2 bears now. I'm like, everyone should be bear hunters, man. You get more meat.
Yeah, man. I last year I just had a great season. I got a bear, and then I did what they call the triple trophy. I got a doe with my bow. I got 2 bucks with a muzzle loader, and then I got another doe with my rifle. So I got a triple trophy.
I love it.
But I had an awesome season last year.
That's cool. Well, congratulations.
I still got a lot of meat in the freezer from last year. I was a single guy until now.
Right, now you're feeding a family of 2. Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey, where can people find you at, follow you? How can they find the magazine? All that.
Yeah. So on Instagram, it's Bear Hunting Mag, and on Facebook, it's Bear Hunting Magazine. And then my IG handle is just Kolby_Morehead. And Kolby is spelled like the cheese with a K. So KOLBY_MOREHEAD.
I love it. I'll make sure to have that in the show notes. Everybody, go give Kolby a follow. Go let him know that you really enjoyed this episode. And also, if you haven't heard of Bear Hunting Magazine, go check it out. Subscribe. I'm a subscriber. I'm a believer and a supporter. We got to make sure we guard the gate, as Kolby talked about.
You're also a cover model.
Oh, yeah. Every now and then I do like to get some pictures taken.
March, April 21.
Heck yeah. When was the date of your cover?
November, December of 18.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. Look at that.
And Clay didn't tell me I was on the cover. He just waited for it to get to my house. It was a total shocker.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, go check out Kolby. Go check out Bear Hunting Magazine. Kolby, thank you so much for coming on, brother. I really appreciate it.
Man.
Be blessed. Good luck this year.
Yeah.
Be blessed in your marriage. That first and foremost,
man.
that's important.
Yeah.
And we want to acknowledge that and really support you in that journey. So be blessed, everybody. As always, freedom on. And as always, once again, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast, as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.